They were not angels. They were not saviors. They were the choosers of the slain. In Norse myth, the Valkyries did not bring peace. They brought judgment. 5. Valkyries were death spirits, not warriors. For all their fierceness, their skill in battle, and their fierce independence, the Valkyries weren't exactly flesh and blood, at least most of them. You see, the word Valkyrie means chooser of the slain, daughter of Odin. And while they may have looked like mortal women, they were far from it. No, Valkyries were half-spirit, half-human hybrids, or sometimes purely spiritual beings whose purpose was to do Odin's bidding. And that meant bringing fallen warriors back to Asgard to serve the All-Father's purposes. That said, there were some Valkyries who had a bit more of a warrior streak than others. Take the legendary Brynhildr, who was so skilled in battle that she was actually banned from fighting alongside the gods for fear that she would outshine them. But fear not, brave heroes. If your Valkyrie ever challenged you to a duel, it was just her way of testing your skills. Just don't let her catch you cheating like the Niflung did when they tricked her into letting them live after their defeat. She might be a little miffed. 4. They chose who died and who lived in. The sagas and Eddas, Valkyries are often depicted as riding across the battlefield after a great fight is over, choosing which fighters get to die and which ones get to come home. A common misconception is that Valkyries only decide who lives or dies on the field of battle, but they didn't really decide that either. Valkyries were present during battles, yes, and they could even join the fray, but they were also servants of Odin, and Odin wanted as many warriors in Asgard as he could get. So the Valkyries weren't looking to mow down hordes of enemies. Instead, they'd pick up warriors who fought bravely, but weren't quite worthy of Odin's favor yet. Then the Valkyrie would carry them back to Asgard and raise them up again with their health and strength restored. The warriors would then be sent out again to do battle until the Valkyrie called them back to Asgard once more. Meanwhile, those who died on the field remained dead. The Valkyries didn't typically bring them back, though there were exceptions to this rule. For example, when the hero Sigmund was killed, his son Sinfiotli went to Urd's well to bring him back. 3. They served Odin but feared hell. You know how they say, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em? Well, that's kind of what happened with the Valkyries. Originally, they were called the Einherjar and served the chief god Thor instead of Odin. But when Odin discovered that Thor wasn't making use of the power these Einherjar provided him, he struck a deal with the giant king Loki to trade his 2 goats, Tangrisnir and Tangjost, for the Einherjar. After the deal went through, Odin took the Einherjar under his wing, raised them up in his hall in Asgard, and renamed them Valkyries, a title that clearly shows who their new patron was. That said, while the Valkyries were loyal to Odin, they feared his wife Hel, whose realm they occasionally had to travel through. Valkyries weren't the only ones who feared Hela, though. Even the mighty Thor dreaded crossing paths with her. And he was a god. He knew the worst place he could go was Hel's Hall, the one his brother Loki had taken him to on that fateful fishing trip long ago. And since Valkyries frequently visited Hel, there's no doubt that they shared his fears. After all, Hel ruled over death and the underworld, so the Valkyries probably didn't want to stick around too long in her domain. 2. They could fall in love and fall from grace. We've established that Valkyries are not exactly known for their chill, easygoing natures. They're fierce, independent, and devoted to Odin. So it's probably not surprising that they were often seen as arrogant, stubborn, and even hot-headed. So it goes without saying that whenever a Valkyrie fell in love, it was a big deal. In fact, one of the most famous tales involving Valkyries, the Volsunga saga, hinges on the romance between a human shield maiden named Brynhild and a Valkyrie named Otjar. While the story goes that Odin had forbidden Valkyries from falling in love with humans, Otjar couldn't help herself, and she loved Brynhild so much that she left Odin's service and threw in her lot with the humans. Unfortunately, she was cursed by Odin to lose her memory upon touching the ground. and so she eventually forgot Brynhild and returned to Asgard. Still, the two were able to reunite before Otar's true love was sent off to war. And this time, Odin allowed the couple to stay together. As you might expect, not all stories about Valkyries falling in love with mortals had such happy endings, however. Like in the tale of the legendary King Sigurd, where the Valkyrie, well, let's just say things didn't end well for her. 1. Not all chosen. Went to Valhalla, it should come as no surprise that Valkyries were responsible for deciding which warriors got to rest in Valhalla. It was, after all, Odin's hall, and he was hardly going to let just anyone wander in. Of course, it stands to reason that being a Valkyrie meant having the ability to choose which warriors were worthy of that honor and which weren't. This could be based on skill in battle, bravery, or sheer potential. Or perhaps it was personal preference, as in the Valkyrie simply liked the person and wanted them to be rewarded. We'll never know. But the fact remains that Valkyries had the final say when it came to determining who entered Valhalla. And if you weren't chosen, well, you might find yourself in Folkvang instead. Unlike Valhalla, Folkvang wasn't ruled by Odin but by Freya, and it's described as being full of gold, delicious food, and beautiful people. So it wasn't exactly a bad place to end up, even if you weren't technically supposed to be there. Then again, if a Valkyrie decided you didn't deserve to live, you wouldn't end up anywhere. Nice, because death in battle wasn't exactly pleasant. So it's probably best to leave the whole Valhalla or Folkvang thing to them. Now you need to watch what really happened to the Valkyries after Ragnarok, or have a look at these other videos instead.